Hello, everyone. This is Tikva from Homeopathy for Humanity, and we are resuming our 10-year program of Materia, Medica, Pura. We have finally made it up to Aurum-Metallicum. And so we today begin the introduction from Aurum-Metallicum. Aurum is going to take us quite a few sessions, but it's going to be worth it because we will have a deeper, more diverse understanding than we will get from other sources of Materia Medica. Thank you, Sanjay. You have our say hi to the people and throw up our PDF.
Yeah.
You're going to say hi to the people first?
Hello. I am Dr. Sanjay from Central Maharashtra and co-founder of Homeopathy for Humanity with Tikva Sassoon. And we are trying to cope with this Hahnemann homeopathy with the other students and homeopath. Okay. Today we are here with new remedy Aurum-Met. This remedy is prepared from gold. We know gold. What is gold? Sona. Huh? And we will see what symptom actually we got in proving. Shall I enlarge this?
Yeah, make it so I can read it better. Otherwise, I'll have to just read from my book.
Let me adjust. I think it is sufficient now.
Okay. Okay, but we're too far. We're not far enough back. It starts with just as superstition, impure observations, and credulous assumptions is where we start. You need to adjust your screen. You've gone too many pages in. You need to go back like 4 pages, Sanjay.
Oh. Introduction part.
Yep, the introduction part is so much fun. I like to call it Rants by Hahnemann. He gives us very interesting tidbits of information and he complains, and it's a lot of fun. Anytime we might think that it's not interesting to read this old material, it's because we haven't taken the time to actually do it. It's very, very interesting. See, look what he says here. Look at what Hahnemann's going to tell us. Gold, the well-known metal. We all know what gold is, right? We have gold jewelry, right? We know what gold is. We have gold jewelry, gold used for decoration. Gold is a very, very important metal and a very, very expensive metal, right, guys? So here Hahnemann starts out with, just as superstition, impure observations, and credulous assumptions have been the source of innumerable falsely ascribed remedial virtues of medicines in the Materia Medica. So superstition, he's saying that Materia Medica has, before the proving data, been superstition, impure observation, and credulous assumptions. And this is what the Materia Medica has been until homeopathic Materia Medica with pure observation of provings. So he's saying it's superstition, impure observation. And what does the word credulous mean? If somebody's credulous. Sanjay, you know this word credulous.
You can tell in simple ways.
Yeah, you can tell in a simpler way than I can.
No, what is actually meaning of credulous?
That's what I'm asking you for.
Anybody? Sandhya? You can go with the dictionary.
Well, or I could just tell you. Credulous means easily believable. So people just
One
take it
who
on faith that they just believe something. They believe
blind,
something because
blindly.
they've read it. Yeah, blind faith that they've read it. They've read it from a book, and therefore they're going to believe it. Or they've heard it from an author. They're going to believe it. They've heard it from their friend. They're going to believe it. That's what credulous means. And then the opposite is incredulous, which means hard to be believed. And then to assume, he used credulous assumptions. That means we're assuming what the medicine is and that we're ascribing properties to a substance that are not necessarily true, just as superstition. So he's saying that a lot of Materia Medica before correct proving data has been superstition and just passed on information from one person to another that people just simply believe. And so Hahnemann is incredulous and is shocked about how people just pass on information without the medicine of pure experience. You understand what I'm saying here? Because homeopathy is using proving data. Believe it or not, we are supposed to use the proving data. It is fundamental to the process. So Hahnemann's saying it's a superstition that everybody just believes whatever they're told and have been read without finding out more. Okay? And he says, in like manner, physicians, by their failure to resort to the test of experiment and by futile theorizing, have quite as unreasonably denied the possession of any medicinal power whatever to many substances that are very powerful. So he's saying that people have been so stupid that they have denied that there's any potential power, medicinal power, in a whole variety of substances. Whatever to many substances that are very powerful. We can have other examples of substances that are very powerful. Everybody thinks that our that gold or that silver or that, calcium or things like that, they think that it's inert. They used to
Aluminium.
coat metal, pills in lycopodium pollen because they thought it was inert, that it would not interact with the person in any way, shape, or form. And it doesn't interact very much until it's been titurated and succussed and made dynamic. The whole thing that we did the last time on the Organon, aphorism 11, we talk all about dynamics and about how homeopathic medicine is dynamic. That's what it is. It's not material. It has a dynamic substance to it. And I made a little YouTube video today that's like 6 minutes long based on something from Brodinghausen's writings about how medicine needs to be dynamic and all the things that people have with their chemical ideas really don't belong to healing the vital force, and therefore they're of very limited value. Okay, so he's saying here that people have their superstitions, credulous assumptions, false beliefs without having tested substances. And he said that by doing this, they have deprived us of these remedies. So humankind has been deprived till now of medicines that lack pure experience and that do not have dynamic power. Okay, second paragraph. In this place, I will only speak of gold, and not of this metal altered by the ordinary chemical processes, consequently, not of it dissolved by the action of acids, nor precipitated from its solution, fulminating gold, both of which have been declared to be, if not useless, then absolutely noxious. What's the word noxious mean?
Disease,
Noxious
producing
means
disease.
which is ability of having an what you call adverse, what you call
Poisonous.
alter
Poisonous.
poisonous.
Yes,
Poisonous.
poisonous. You nailed it. Yes, noxious means poisonous in this context. Okay, so they have declared it to be, if not useless, then poisonous. Apparently, because they cannot be taken without dangerous consequences when given in what is called a justa dosis, or in other words, excessive quantity. Okay, there's literally nobody taking excessive quantities of gold in this day and age, right? Gold is something that we keep and it's valuable. Okay, so he's saying, no, I speak of pure gold not altered by chemical manipulations. Modern physicians have pronounced this to be quite inactive. They have at length expunged it out of all materia medicas, and thereby deprived us of its mighty curative virtues. Okay, so they said that gold is not active and it is not in any materia medicas because they don't know how to use it because there has been no adequate provings. Okay, quoting Hahnemann again. It is incapable of solution in our gastric juices. That means in our stomach acid. Hence, it must be quite powerless and useless. This was their theoretical conclusion. And in the medical art, as well known, such theoretical dicta have always availed more than convincing proof because they did not question experience, the only possible guide in the medical art, which is founded on experience alone, because it was easier to make mere assertions. Therefore, they usually preferred bold dicta, theoretical, empty assumptions, and arbitrary maxims to solid truth. Okay, what does that mean, Sanjay? Want to explain that in Hindi?
Very long sentence. Just try to read it again. It is incapable of solution in gastric juice. Hence, it must be quite powerless and useless. Metals we see, and it cannot be dissolved easily, and that's why they used to say it is a powerless or it is useless. It cannot affect the material body. This was their theoretical conclusion and medical art. In medical art means, and in the medical art, it is known as theoretical dicta. Has always availed more than convincing proofs. Means, what does it mean? Actually, people look at more theoretical part. then actual what is proof? What exactly does it mean? In Marathi, we have one saying. I don't know how many people does understand this. Like, I will try to say in my Hindi. वो कहते हैं ना कि हाथ के कंगन को आईना किस लिए? जो दिखता है उसके लिए आईने की जरूरत नहीं है ना? जो दिखता है मतलब जो कन्विंसिंग प्रूफ है तुम्हारे सामने, उसके लिए आईने की जरूरत नहीं है। हाँ, मतलब उस और यहाँ पे जो हियर दे से theoretical dicta have always avail more than convincing proofs. Tigwa, can you explain this?
Well, basically, the way Hahnemann developed homeopathy is very concrete. He made it into a very concrete science where he took substances, no matter whether or not they had a reputation or didn't have a reputation to be curative, and he made them into potencies and gave them to people. The people recorded the symptoms that the medicine gave them, that the substance gave them. And that got recorded as pure materia medica, not theoretical materia medica, not handed down person to person for no reason materia medica. He made it a very, very concrete materia medica. So when we go through the proving data, we are seeing concrete symptoms. And when our patient presents with the same symptoms that you will find in the Materia Medica Pura or any other good proving data, you know you have the right medicine for your patient. And therefore, it is not theoretical. And this is where Hahnemann tends to rant at the beginning of each substance, because he says it is so important to do the work to find out under what circumstances a medicine can be used. And this falls under the law of similars. And yes, gold doesn't do much if people just plain eat it, but it is an extremely powerful substance and brought into potency. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing with the next paragraph, it is no excuse for them that the older physicians have also deemed gold to be quite useless and powerless. That, for example, Fabricus in blah, blah, book, Observational Med something, says, what effect can the low temperature of our stomach have on gold leaf, seeing that it is unaltered by the most intense heat? Or Nicholas Menardes from De Ferro, pages 32-33, patients may take my word for it and spare themselves the expense of employing gold as a medicine. They can never obtain any medicinal virtue from it for their maladies. Or you have Olston, Materia Medica 1, page 69. Seeing that gold in its metallic state cannot be dissolved or altered by the vital power, it can consequently have no medical action. But what it exerts on the intestines by virtue of its weight, hardness, and mechanical form Or lastly, JF Gimmelin, something apparatus, medical, minimum something. Page 455. As gold is not destructible, not resolvable into vapor, and it is hence incapable of union with the juices of the animal body. Therefore, it cannot possess curative virtues. So here's
Yeah.
some historical documents where Hahnemann is giving us information from old Materia Medica sources that gold is useless. Nor are they excused when they adduce a number of other older physicians as deniers of the medical properties of gold and refer to such names as Ant, Musa, Brassivolus, Bell, Platerus, Hire, Cardanus, Jobrivis, Petrovit, Frank.
All these names actually are of those people who deny the action of gold as medicine before Hahnemann, means
Yep.
not before or during Hahnemann. And then he is saying that even they have that what you call lot of people, lot of things published in various journals. That's how gold is useless to be used as a medicine. And Hahnemann was saying it is such a wonderful remedy after he proven on healthy human being. Okay, you can continue with the next line. They were all wrong.
Yeah, go ahead. Read the next couple of lines.
They were all wrong, and so are all of modern physicians. Gold has great peculiar medicine powers. Means whatever there was belief during and before Hahnemann about gold as useless as a medicine, and then he is saying everyone is wrong because gold has very great medicinal and peculiar power
And it sure does.
and very chronic remedy, deep acting remedy. At first, I allow myself to be deterred by those deniers from hoping for medicinal properties in the pure gold. But as I could not pursue myself to consider any metal whatsoever as destitute of curative powers, I employed it at first in solution. Hence, the few symptoms from solution of gold recorded below. I then gave in cases where the symptoms guided me to a homeopathic employment and what is that word? Cantil, can you pronounce that?
Quintillion?
Cantinian
A
and
quintillion or a sextillion of a grade.
sextillion. It is
That's talking
very,
about a
very
tiny,
small
tiny grain.
quantity, very small quantity of grain of gold in solution for the dose and observe curative effect, whatever similar to those I afterwards experienced from pure gold. He's talking about how the small bit of gold have such a great qualities of curing the symptoms or producing the symptoms. We know that in homeopathy, when the medicine is being given to a healthy human being during proving, it produces the effects. And gold has very peculiar and very characteristic symptoms, which were denied during and before Hahnemann. Hanuman was first to show up these all the symptoms. But because as a rule, I do not like, when I can avoid it, I give the metal dissolved in acid. When I cannot avoid doing so, I prefer their solution in vegetable acids. Does he saying that he does use acids, Tigwa?
Yeah, he said he tried it.
Yeah, but he's saying that he used vegetable acids.
Yes, he said he's giving us the history of his trying the substance.
And least of all in mineral acid, as that detract from their noble simplicity. What actually he means here? Actually, he said the pure qualities of gold, not with can you explain this paragraph?
Not dissolved in acids. He's giving a history of how he came to make the medicine gold. He's saying that he doesn't like to give metals dissolved in acids because when they're made into acids, they change them from their noble simplicity and
Yeah.
that they undergo alteration in their properties. And then he says, and we must perceive on a comparison of the curative effects of corrosive sublimate with those of the black oxide of mercury. Then he says, I was delighted to find a number of Arabian physicians unanimously testifying to the medicinal powers of gold. And the reason why you'd have Arabian physicians testifying to the medicinal powers of gold is because something that is mentioned in the Torah, that when there was a idol made, that Moshe Rabbeinu made it into a fine pulverized form and gave it to the Jewish people after they did idol worship. So this is something that Jeremy Sher likes to bring out regularly as it being the first homeopathic treatment. And mentioned in the Torah during the giving of the Torah in Har Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain and he was gone for 40 days and 40 nights. The people despaired and didn't know where he was. And in order to comfort themselves, they made themselves an idol out of gold. And when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain, he saw that there was idol worship going on, which is forbidden for Jews. And he took the idol and he made it into a pulverized form and put it into water and made everybody who had participated in the idol worship, made them drink it. And this was the first homeopathic medicinal event with gold. Fun fact. Okay. So the Arabians, okay, but we could really go to the Jews because this happened in the Torah with the Jewish people. And the Arabians remembered that. The first trace of this we meet within the 8th century when Geber, in his book from 1698, mounts gold as a materia lactefens et in juventud corpus conservans. Towards the end of the 10th century, Serapon the Younger says powdered gold is useful in melancholy and weakness of heart. Does that sound familiar? Then at the commencement of the 11th century, Avicenna says powdered gold is one of the medicines against melancholy, removes fetter of the breath, is, even when given internally, a remedy for falling out of the hair, strengthens the eyes, is useful in pain of the heart and palpitation, and is uncommonly serviceable in dyspnea. And then we go back up to the footnote. Can we go back up to the footnote? It is very stupid to attempt to decide theoretically the question whether gold can possess remedial properties. The only proper thing to do is to convince oneself by trial and experience whether it has remedial powers or not. If it has curative virtues, then all the theoretical denials are ridiculous. Abul Qasim, at the commencement of the 12th century, is the first who describes the preparation of this gold powder in these words. The gold is rubbed on a rough linen cloth in a basin filled with water, and the fine powder that falls to the bottom of the water is to be employed for administration. And Johann von St. Amand in the 13th century describes the same method of its preparation in 1561. This mode of preparation was imitated by Zacutus, the Portuguese, and he records the history of the case of a nobleman who had long been troubled by melancholy ideas, whom he had cured in a month by the sole use of a fine powder obtained by rubbing gold on a grindstone. What does the word melancholy mean?
Melancholy.
Mhm.
A feeling of sadness, kind of.
Yes, indeed. Melancholia is an old-fashioned term for depression, right?
And we also see all Indians could know gold powder is being used for brain and heart ailments. But that they use that powder very small quantity directly. Okay.
And we'll see in the provings how well it works in brain and heart ailments. Right, guys?
Okay, continue.
I may refer here to the laudations of gold powder and of gold by probably Joseph Platerius, Rodriguez A. Castro, Abraham Porta Leones, Zacharias of Puerto, Horn, de France Braco.
All these men.
Yep, all these men. Horstius, Telfer, Valerius, Hofer, Zwolfer. But leaving these authorities out of the question, I thought I might attach more value to the testimony of the Arabians as to the curative powers of finely powdered gold than to the theoretical, unfounded doubts of the moderns. So I triturated the finest gold leaf Its finest is 23 carats, 6 grains, with 100 parts of milk sugar for a full hour for internal medicinal use. I will not attempt to determine if this fine powder of gold is only triturated smaller, or if by this energetic trituration it has become discolored. Although that the adult 100 grains powder containing 1 grain of gold, and on another 200 grains containing 2 grains of gold dissolved in water, suffice to excite very great alterations in the health and morbid symptoms, which are recorded below. So remember how much a grain is. A grain is a very small thing, like a grain of rice or a grain of wheat. And this was a standardized weight in the olden days. So when it says a grain, they mean like a grain of barley, a grain of wheat. From these, it will be perceived that the assertions of the Arabians are not without foundation. That means it's true, as even small doses of this metal, given in the form mentioned, caused even in healthy adults morbid states very similar to those cured in unconscious homeopathic manner by those Orientals who deserve credit for their discovery of remedies. Since then, I have quickly cured and permanently of melancholia resembling that produced by gold many persons who had serious thoughts of committing suicide by small doses, which for the whole treatment contained altogether from the 3 to 100th to the, I think that's a 9 or an 8. Let me look at my book.
9.
That's a 9. 9 to 100th of a grain of gold. And in like manner, I have cured several other severe affections resembling the symptoms caused by gold. I do not doubt that much higher attenuations of the powder and much smaller doses of gold would apply amply suffice for the same purpose. Okay. And let's go back to the footnote again.
1 minute.
The Arabic word has 2 meanings. According to the accentuation of the word, it means either talking to himself or dyspina. Experience of the curative power of gold shows the last the true meaning. Okay, difficult reading. All right. So, Hahnemann did a lot of research to come to these conclusions. You see how many books he went through, how many articles he read, how many historical documents and medical things. He doesn't just take things for granted. He really researches things. Go ahead and read, Sanjay.
Sometimes after writing the above, I had opportunity of convincing myself that 100 folds higher attenuation of the above preparation made by trituration gold with 100 parts of sugar of milk. Consequently, 1 by 10,000 part of a grain. 1 by 10,000 parts means it is really, really small. Part of a grain of gold for the dose showed itself not less powerful in the curative point of view. especially in caries of the palatal and nasal bones, caused by abuse of mercury, prepared with mineral acid. In subjoined schema of symptom of gold, homeopathic to these affection will be readily observed. What he is saying here. He is saying even very, very small amount, very, very small amount. Means it has ability to cure. It does not change because it's small. It does not change the character of curative power of the remedy.
And the titration
And
makes it dynamic.
yeah, and especially in caries of palatal and nasal bones, means in bone caries, or where we see bone caries, gold is means this carries caused by abuse of mercury prepared with mineral acid. Can
Yeah.
you just switch off the mics?
Yeah, so when people, the old-time doctors like this used to give a lot of mercury. And this mercury would do a lot of damage. And it would do things like destroy noses, not uncommonly, and bones. You know, we see that kind of thing now with the use of steroids. You look at how many people who've had a lot of steroids, they get very thin skin. Sometimes the tops of their femurs dissolve, and then they get new joints and joint replacement surgeries. I'm sure you guys know about that. It's been in the Indian news recently that a lot of people who had coronavirus that were given conventional treatment have now had to undergo joint replacements from having had too strong of steroids for too long. So allopathic medicine is not without its risks. Did anybody else read these articles about the need for joint replacements? Well, maybe not. Anyway, okay, I'll continue here. By further titration and dilution, the power of gold is still more developed and spiritualized. That means it made more dynamic, more dynamic. We want to go to that aphorism 11 that we did like 2 weeks ago and understand what it means that it's dynamic and how it affects the vital force. So that I now employ for all curative purposes only a very small portion of a grain of the quadrillion-fold dilution for a dose. Would our physicians, by their customary method of fabricating the virtues of medicines out of airy hypotheses, you see how he uses the word airy hypotheses? A hypothesis made out of air. It has no concrete function, right? And constructing a materia medica of fanciful materials. What are fancies? Things that are not concrete. Have ever discovered this remarkable power of a metal, which their learned speculations had consigned to be a category of utterly powerless substances, and which other of the favorite methods of our materia medica manufacturers would have taught us these remedial properties of gold? These have been clear it produces which resemble the morbid states it is capable of curing. You see this, the law of similars again. It is clearly and certainly taught to the homeopathic physician by the symptoms it produces, which resembles the morbid states it is capable of curing. Andy, can you say that, Andy? Just that one sentence there. These have been clearly and certainly taught to the homeopathic physician by the symptoms it produces, which resemble the morbid states it is capable of curing. Hindi doctor, sir? You're muted. You're talking to nobody. You have to unmute your mic.
Okay.
Start again.
ओके यही बात यहाँ पे कही गई है। अगर किसी मेडिसिन में या किसी दवाई में जो क्वालिटीज होती है, जो सिम्टम्स प्रोड्यूस करते हैं, अगर सेम क्वालिटीज या कोई मॉर्बिड स्टेट हमें दिखाई दे वो सिम्टम के जैसी, तो ये मेडिसिन की एबिलिटी होगी उसको क्योर करने की पूरी तरह से, राइट। तो यही बात इसमें बोली है। कहाँ है वो सेंटेंस? दिस हैज बीन क्लियरली एंड सर्टेनली टॉट टू होम्योपैथिक फिजिशियन बाय सिम्टम्स, मतलब ये सिखाता है होम्योपैथिक फिजिशियन को उसके सिम्टम के थ्रू, क्या, विच रिसेंबल्स द मॉर्बिड स्टेट, मगर जो सिम्टम्स मॉर्बिड स्टेट को रिसेंबल करेंगे, इट इज कैपेबल ऑफ क्योरिंग, मतलब ये उसको क्योर कर सकता है। ये सिर्फ गोल्ड की बात नहीं है या गोल्ड की बात नहीं है, लेकिन इट इज एप्लीकेबल टू होल ऑफ होम्योपैथी।
Yep,
The
this is your
substance,
persistence.
every substance, the substance, the which characteristics and peculiar symptoms it produces, the substance have its own ability to produce symptoms. And if you see that such symptoms in morbid form, in disease state, in our patient, similar one, then that substance will cure those morbid state symptoms. Right?
Yeah. And that is the job of the homeopath.
Yeah.
Poor, fabulous Materia Medica on the ordinary stamp. That means general Materia Medica, like books of botany type Materia Medica. How far dost thou lag behind the revelation which medicines in their action on the healthy human body clearly make by their production of morbid symptoms, which the homeopathic physician can employ with infallible certainty for the cure of natural disease. Okay, so he's saying that the homeopath knows definitely without a doubt that the symptoms that are produced here in this proving will cure the similar disease of mankind. Okay, and then he says the duration of the action of gold is not extremely small doses is at least 21 days. And then we have the list of provers: Franz, Gross, Frederick Hahnemann, Hempel, Harriman, Langerham, Miffler, Wislinus, I can never say this man's name, Wislicenus, listlessness. And then he adds some old school authorities. Hoffman, Ludovici, Schultz. Okay. And the remedial power of the internal employment of gold in the evil effects of mercury was observed by Anthony Chalmitas. And that's the footnote for that, if we want to go and look it up. Okay, and
Okay.
here we come to the proving data.
I think we should stop here
I think you're right.
because we have just completed. You can completed introductory part of Aurum-Met, and now we have to move over the proving data. Actual symptoms been produced, and this is uh, very important to learn this proving data. Now, in this first part, we have seen the introduction part of Aurum Metallicum.
Yeah, I just love these introductions. They're so interesting.
So it gives us a very different one video of introduction, and then we have complete video of proving data. Maybe we need 2 or 3 lectures to complete, right? Tikwa?
I think my thing went frozen for a second. I didn't hear your sentence because my connection is slightly unstable.
Okay, I say we have this one video of introduction, then we will have videos of proving data. Probably it might not complete in single video. We might need part 1, part 2, part 3.
Generally,
Because this is a very big remedy.
yeah, very big, important remedy.
And very important remedy which have lots and lots of symptoms, basically characterize action on depression, brain, and on the
Characteristics.
heart. Not only this, but we will see it have action on whole body.
Yeah, it has a lot of different action in a lot of different areas, and it's a very important remedy. It's not going to take as long as doing arsenicum did, though. Arsenicum has more.
Yeah.
This is
It will
smaller.
not take as long as arsenicum, but still it will not complete in one video. So I think this was a little bit boring session, isn't it?
Boring. I thought it was a lot of fun.
No, sir.
I'm just joking. It was Sandhya Sahu, freeze. I think she is freeze. Yeah, she is frozen.
Yes, sir.
I think your connection is also weak today.
Yes,
You are
sir.
frozen for a second.
So many times I've frozen, sir, as today. Today's session is too much breaking down for me. I think some
Yeah,
problem in the Wi-Fi.
Aisha's connection was good. She was there the whole session,
And attentive, too.
attentive to, yeah. And these qualities, I don't know whether she understand much and what she will understand, but the qualities she have to be attentive in the class are very important.
Thank you, sir.
बस समझ में आए या ना आए, किताब लो, पढ़ते जाओ, समझ में आए ना आए, वो मैटर नहीं करेगा. एक दिन आएगा लेकिन वो समझ में आएगा, है ना। तो यही होम्योपैथी
Yes.
ऐसा नहीं है कि एक बार पढ़ने से तुम्हें सारा कुछ जाएगा अंदर। आज भी हम लोग ये बुक्स पढ़ते तो बहुत कुछ जाता है नया नया। पीछे मुड़ के देखते तो 30 साल गुजर गए, तुम्हारे तो साल अभी तक चालू ही नहीं हुई, राइट।
Yes, sir. Right, sir.
I think I cannot stop recording. Tikwa should come and stop. Any problems? If you have any problem, then you can. Tikwa, can you just close the recording? Stop the recording.
Yep, so thank you, everybody who joined us today, and everybody who is going to be listening to this as a podcast or watching it later on. We greatly appreciate your share it, like it, subscribe to the channel, all those things, right? Hit the bell, right, guys? Yeah, feel
Yes,
free to
ma'am.
share any of the
Thank you,
material
Ma'am, sir.
on the YouTube
Thank you very
channel.
much.
Else. And thank you so much for joining us.
Same to you. Thank you, teachers.
And basically, try to come on video, everyone, because it encourages the speaker to see faces and talk to them.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Next time.
Yeah, that could be good. And it will be nice. You can stop recording.